Good afternoon, myself Dr. Ravi Kumar. So today's topic is articrafts of the process. So last previous class we have seen that the we are life cycle phases. The life cycle is divided into two types. So one is engineering phase and another one is production phase. Okay. In the engineering again it is divided into two types. One is inception phase, and another one is elaboration phase. In production phase, it is divided into two types. So one is collaboration, and the last one is transition. So transition phase. So we have seen that this life cycle phases is very important for starting or success of the software project. So here in inception, mainly they need to check that the requirements is very crucial important and the user document is very important. And later in the elaboration, the we know that the design part is very crucial, and after that the collaboration. In the collaboration, we know that the implementation and deployment is very important, and the transition. Uh, so there we need to deploy the product as well as the maintenance the products. Okay. Today we'll see the anti-crafts of the process. So what is meant by anti-crafts? Why we require these anti-crafts? Okay, so we know that anti-craft is nothing but it is mainly used for the specific methods or the processes of the development. And if you are planning for the what are the methods and the process in the anti-crafts is such as the project plans, business cases, or the risk assessments. So these are the methods or the process for the anti-crafts. So this is very important. Generally we can call it as this anti-crafts in the software engineering. So whereas in the software project management, anti-craft is nothing but it is the any tangible in the sense we can touch and we can feel. It means the documented outcome produced during the course of managing a software project. So this means the anti-craft is nothing but it is a documented process which will be giving the clear idea about the software project. Okay, so we know that we have the two types. One is conventional and another one is modern process. In the conventional, we know that it is a sequential process. In this sequential development, we have the builder requirements. In the waterfall model, so here builder requirements is the first phase or the stage, and the next one is they need to construct a design model that is traceable to the requirements. Next stage of the phase we can call as the design or the architecture part. After that, after designing components, then the next one is implementation. So implementation is very important to trace out the in the design model. And the last one is compile and test implementation for the deployment. So these are the various phases in the conventional software project. So these are the main phases. So each phase has to be completed, then only it will move to the another phase. And this can be mainly used for the small scale. So this process can be mainly applicable for the small scale, and also they need to have the clear idea about the what are the design representations, implementation representation, and deployment representation is clearly they need to understand how the process can be simplified in the small scale. Okay, so best example we know that if you are running a program, so this can be mainly applicable for the single computer. Okay, or when you are using the special process. This way, when you are using the special process, the components can be constructed with the straight form. So they can be have the general purpose and the special purpose. When you are using the general purpose, it is mainly stick onto the specific of the single computer. So whereas the special, so this can be a straightforward and it can be applicable to all the representations. And here they have this conventional may be used for the past 20 years, and the software industry has to be matured and has transisted, so management process has to be iterative. So we know that when you're using the convention or the sequential, it will be very difficulty to identify what are the gaps in the conventional software. So that's why we required to transit from conventional to the modern process, that is iterative process. So when you're taking the sequential, okay, the antigraphs uh, evolve together and constraints. It's a very different level of abstraction and the degrees of freedom are balanced. So we need to check that whether we need to go for the conventional or we need to go for the modern iterative process. Okay, so these anticrafts can be does not evolve in the one way. So mainly it will be having the two-way communication and having the linear progression from the requirements to design to implementation. So mainly it will be having the different types of the phases and the requirements to do the task in a complete manner. So it will be completed into the deployment stages. And we need to choose the choice recording about the implementation and the deployment, how the way we are taking the different types of the requirements to proceed for the design proceedings. And also we need to concentrate on the how the information and the relations can be flow through the anti-graphs. So when you're taking the good development process, we need to check what are the inappropriate data. So we need to eliminate the inappropriate data and premature the constraints on the design. And we need to have the different types of the engineering constraints to accommodate to do the task in a clear manner. Okay. So here in the anti-graphs of the process, now we'll see the what are the anti-graph sets here. Okay. So here the development of a software system manageable. So we have the different types of collections of informations to be organized in the anti-graph sets. So each sets we can it will be related and can be have the uniform representations. And here we have the English text. Okay, the information can be written in the English text and have the C++, Visual Basic, Java, and a standard document template and standard spreadsheet template, or we can call as by with the help of the UML model. So these are the different types of the sets which can be used in the anti-graphs to do the task in a uniform representations. Okay, so these sets can be a complete aspects of a system, and we can take the anti-graph representation of the information to be developed and reviewed as a single entity here. So we need to take the different types of the sets and anti-graphs to do the task complete and developed in a single entity. And also this information can be how if you're taking the organizations, the projects or the systems, some of the anti-graphs, even some of the sets can be trivial or sometimes it can how it can be unnecessary of the data. So we need to check that information can be captured and to satisfy all the stakeholders. So we need to verify the information to satisfy the stakeholders. So what are the information we are captured that should be very important and needed to the stakeholders. Okay. So here we have the life cycle software anti-graphs where the anti-graph sets can be divided into five distinct sets. Okay. So there we have the management. Okay. So management is the one type set. Okay. And this management can be having the ad hoc textual formats. And next one is requirements. So requirements means we need to verify about the planning and the requirements. What are the text we need to check and how the information can be organized and have the different types of the models of the problem space. And the next one is we know that the design part. In design part, the various types of the components of the models has to be have the solutions And the next one is implementation. So this implementation set, so the human coding as well as the automation in text or the coding part has to be incorporated. So in the implementation, we need to check that the human readable programming language and also different types of the source files. And the last one is deployment. So this deployment means the final product has to be initiated. This in the deployment, we need to check that the machine processable languages and associated files has to be used. So these are the different types of the anti-graph sets which will be divided into 5 types. Now we'll see each and every one how this will be very useful for the anti-graphs of the process. Okay, so these different types means 5 types of the sets will be very useful for the different types of the languages in the sets will be used here, which can be organized in a proper manner. Okay, now here when you are taking the these sets will be very powerful engineering notations for the requirements and the design anti-graphs that must be support the architecture first development. So for anything first we need to develop the architecture, then we need to go for the unified modeling language. This unified modeling language is very useful to represent the data in a visual models, and this will be suitable in a different types of the representations of the formats. Then we need to check with the specified syntax and the semantics designing the anti-graphs. So when you're taking the visual modeling using the UML, it is very important to check that how this information can be maybe primitive notations for the early life cycle anti-graphs. So we have seen that we have the 5 types of anti-graph sets are there. One is requirements, design set, implementation set, deployment, and the management set here. In the requirement set, so mainly we need to check that vision document. So user documentation is very important because so when they're starting the software project, first they need to have the tangible or user documented. And the next one is requirement model. So they need to scrutinize what are the main planning and the requirements has to be implemented in the requirement set here. The next one is design set. So we know that the design set is nothing but we need to use the different types of design models, okay, and the test models and software architecture description. There we need to have the different types of the components and the models. What are the models we need to implement it in the design set here. Next one is implementation set. So we know that in the implementation set we need to use the programming language. So here we need to check that source code baseline. So what are the which source code we need to implement it here, and associated compile time files. And the last one is component executable has to be implemented in the implementation set here. The next one is deployment set. In the deployment set, there we need to integrate all the modules and we need to execute the code. The first one is integrated product executable baseline. The next one is associated runtime files. The last one is user manuals. So in the fifth set, the management set, so where we have the 2 types. One is planning anti-graphs and another one is operational anti-graphs. So we know that in the planning anti-graphs, we have the work breakdown structure. Next one is business use case. This business use case has to be implemented very critically. And the next one is release specifications. The software has to be releases in different types of the versions. Okay, and the next one is software development plan. So they need to plan that how the software has to be implemented and what are the various versions we need to release here. And the next one is operational artifacts. So they has to know about the release descriptions and the status assessment, software change order database, development documents, and the last one is environment. So these are the various artifacts which are available in the management set here. And here in the first management set, so here we have the it has to be captured the anti-crafts associated with the process planning and executions. So we need to check that what are the various anti-crafts and ad hoc notations has to be used. Ad hoc notations such as the text, graphics, or what are the representations. So we can take the various notations here to capture that, and have to capture the contracts among the project personals. So the project personals, in the sense, there we need to check that the project management, the architecture, and developers, testers, marketers, and administrators. So these are the various project persons will be there. And next one is the stakeholders. So stakeholders such as, so these are the main stakeholders where funding will be granted. So funding authority and user, project software project manager, and organization manager, and regulator agencies. So they will be act like a agencies, or providing the funds or funding authority will be there. And the last one is between the project personals and the stakeholders. There should be a communication between the project personals and the stakeholders. Okay, and they need to specify some anti-crafts. So where they need to set the work breakdown structure. So we have the breakdown and the financial tracking mechanism and a business case. So in the business case, they need to check that what are the various cost, schedule, profit expectations will be there, and release specifications such as what is the scope of the software product release and the plan and objectives for the release baselines. The next one is software development plan. In the software development plan, they need to check that what is the project process instance will be there, and the project description. The results has to be released baselines, and they need to verify about the what is the status of the assessment. Like they need to take the periodic snapshots of the project progress. Next one is the software change orders. Means they need to check that what is the discrete baseline changes has to be used for the to describe each and every one. And the last one is the deployment documents. So these deployment documents has to be cutout plan and a training course, sales rollout kit. So in the deployment documents, they need to have the clear idea to complete the plan, and having the training courses, okay, and the sales rollout kit, and various environment. This environment can be related to the hardware and the software tools and the process automations and the documentations, training collateral necessary to support the execution of the process. And they need to have the clear idea about the software development plan and the production of the engineering artifacts. So these are the main management sets, and we need to have some uh, different types of the anti-crafts. So where they need to evaluate and assess and measure. So how this can be evaluated and assessed and be measured by combinations. First, they need to check that relevant stakeholder review. So this is very important because uh, so the management has to be deal or to give the information to the stakeholder. So the stakeholder has to be reviewed. So how much percentage of the software project has to be completed, and what is the status of the financial. So whether they need to sanction the remaining amount, and whether they are completed within the budget, the cost or schedule. And they have the analysis of the change. So how this analysis means, they need to scrutinize the current version and the previous versions, okay, and how the management trends and perform the project performance changes in terms of cost, schedule, and the quality here. And also they need to check the major milestone demonstration. So demonstration is very important to between the management and the stakeholders, because they need to balance all the anti-crafts and also to improve the accuracy of the business case, and finally they need to achieve the vision anti-crafts here. Okay, so this is about the management side. Now we'll have a look on the how the engineering sets will be uh, combined. Okay, so in the engineering set we have the requirement set, design set, implementation set, and deployment set. So we know that we have the five types. In the five types, we have discussed the management set. So whereas in the engineering set, so we have the requirement, design, implementation, and the deployment set here. Okay, so the primary mechanism for means mainly we need to check that how we are going to evaluating the quality of each and every anti-craft. How this can be transitioning of the information from one set to the another set here. And we need to maintain the balance of the understanding about the requirements, design, implementation, and deployment the anti-crafts. And also we need to check that the components, so these components are having the system description or the tag here. Okay, so the first one is requirement set here. In the requirement set, so we need to check that what is the structured text. So in the structured state, okay, text, we need to check what is the vision statement and how we are going to document the project scope that must be supporting or the supports the contract between the funding authority and the project team here. It means the stakeholder has to be give the authority of the funding, and there should be a smooth communication between from the stakeholder and the management. And also they need to check that the what are the ad hoc formats, okay, may also be used for the supplementary specifications. So like regulatory requirements, and they need to have the user mockups, or they need to check the prototypes how they're going to capture the requirements. Okay, the next one is EML notations. In the EML notations, so they need to have the engineering representations such as the use case models and the domain models for the requirement models. In the requirement sets, mainly they need to have the primary engineering context for evaluating the other engineering anti-crafts. So now we'll see the different types of the test cases. In the requirement anti-crafts, mainly we need to evaluate, assess, and measure uh, based upon the consistency. Okay, first we will have the how the analysis of the consistency. So they need to check that release specifications of the management set here. So they need to have the different types of the software releases and the specifications of the management sets. The next one is analysis of the consistency between the vision and the requirement model. So they need to check that what is the vision, ultimate goal of the vision of the management on the organization, and how the different types of the requirement models. And they need to map the design, implementation, and the deployment sets to evaluate the consistency and completeness. So they need to have the clear balance between the information in the different types of the sets here. And also they need to have the analysis of change. So change should be like current versions and the previous versions. In the current and the previous versions, they need to consider the what is the scrap and the rework, and what is how they are going to eliminate the defect elimination trends here. The next one is subjective review of other dimensions of the quality. So here they need to check that how they're going to improve the quality of the subject here. Okay. The next one is design set here. Okay, this is the third set, that is we can call as the design set. In the design set, they need to have the UML notations used to engineer the design models for the solutions. In the design sets, they need to have the levels of abstractions, how they're going to represent the components for the solution space, such as the identities, attributes, static relationships, and dynamic interactions. And the next one is how they're going to design these models with the help of the structural and the behavior information. So they need to build the materials like quantity and the specifications of the primitive parts, and the materials, labor, and the other direct cost. So they need to evaluate each and every structure as well as the behavior information of the bills of the materials. So in the design models, so how they're going to have this information in a straightforward manner. So in many cases, they need to check the automatically translated into a subset, the implementations and the deployment set anti-graphs. So they need to check that how the information can be implemented and the deployment of the different sets of the anti-graphs. And also they need to specific design set anti-graphs has to be included, such as design model, test model, and software uh, architecture description. So in the software architecture description, so they need to extract the information from the design model, and this can be described very clearly of the architecture of the design. And this the design can be evaluated and assessed and measured by combining. How means they need to check that internal consistency, how this design can be, how the consistency and the quality of the design model. And the next one is they need to analysis of the consistency with the requirement models. The last one is that translations into the implementation and the deployment sets and notations. For example, we're taking the traceability and source code generations, compilation, and linking to evaluate the consistency and completeness, and also have the systematic balance information in the sets here. So this information has to be maintained very consistency and provide the quality of the design model here. So this is very important for the providing the adequacy of the process, and they need to have the clear idea about the how they're going to changes between the current and the previous. Current versions as well as the previous versions. They need to compare the scrap, rework, and defect elimination trends here. And they need to have the clear idea about the subjective review of the other dimensions of the quality. So in the design model, they need to scrutinize how much they are going to provide the quality of the design. So based upon the architecture, that the quality will be improved, because they need to check that the various types of the components, and also they need to minimize the scrap rework, and they need to eliminate the defect. What are the defect elimination trends will be there, they need to minimize here, so that the quality will be improved. And here the level of automated analysis, because mainly when you're comparing with the human as well as the automated tools, these automated tools will be minimizing the schedule, and it is very cost effective compared to the paperwork here. So that's why we need to check that what is the level of automated analysis available on design models, and then they're going to limit the human analysis. Okay, why means when you're considering more impact of the human, the cost and the schedule will be very high. So that's why they need to check that the automated analysis of the available on the design models. And here, the situation should change over the next few years. How it will be changes based upon the maturity of the design models, and how the tools can be implemented, such as the metrics collection, complexity analysis, and style analysis, heuristic analysis, and consistency analysis. So they need to check the different types of the based upon the situations and the tools, how these tools can be implemented for collecting the different types of the parameters, and how much complexity will be they're going to analysis, and what are the different types of the styles they're going to implement it here, and whether they need to use the heuristic analysis. And finally, they're going to check that what is the consistency for analysis of the design model. So this will be very important for scrutinize and to improve with the help of the automated analysis. So why means this automated analysis will be clearly implementing the different types of the components, okay, and it will be reduction of the scrap and the rework, and also it will be improving the efficiency of the design models. So when they're going for the automated level, so this automated level will be improving more, very much accuracy compared to the human analysis. So human analysis will take much time, and also it will be more cost compared to the automated levels. But before that, automated analysis must be have some knowledge when they're using some personal training of the analysis of the different types of the design models. So these are the various anti-crafts process. Okay, so till now we have discussed three anti-craft sets. So in the next video, we'll continue the anti-crafts the process. Okay, so there we are going to discuss the implementation and the deployment, how this will be implemented, and how we are going to improve the quality of the various anti-crafts. Okay, so these are the references referred for the anti-crafts of the process. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.